Who doesn't like a good Pokemon adventure? Hit new game, choose your starter Pokemon, use the same 2 attacks for the whole game. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Zelu. I know it's been a quick minute, but hopefully you like the little facelift I gave the channel. We gotta talk, man. Listen, Yellow was my first video game ever, and I've owned every single Pokemon game ever since, at least the main series ones. But I've got beef with Game Freak right now. There's some things that have been bothering me ever since Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, before I grab a pitchfork and join the mob, I feel like if I'm going to complain about something, I might as well make it constructive in some way, you know? So today I'm going to be looking at the main components of what makes a main series Pokemon game, and I'm going to see if I can find a way to put a fresh spin on the whole series. But before we start, remember to like this video, hit subscribe for more content like this, or else I'm going to find you and bite your nails too short. Yeah, it's that serious. On to the first point, tutorials. I don't really think we should have to talk about this, but apparently that's not the case. It's 2020. Everybody has played a Pokemon game. Tutorials should really be optional. I think everybody can agree on that point. If there is something that people find confusing in a new Pokemon title, most of the new mechanics are nothing super complicated. I feel like recent games have it the worst. Back in older generations, you only had 2 tutorials to worry about: how to catch a Pokemon and how to battle. After that, everything else that you learned typically came from raw experience, or if you were the kind of player that likes to talk to every NPC, you'd be greatly rewarded with extra information because some characters would point you to tips that are not really well known. Pokemon Sun and Moon, however, probably introduced the best and worst tutorial system I've ever seen in any Pokemon game. How is that possible, you ask? They added this little button to every single icon in the battle phase, so if you wanted to select fight, run, bag, or even on the moves and items themselves, you would get a description of what it was that you were selecting before you made a commitment to that action. They even went so far as to add type listings, so that if you happen to have fought a Pokemon and defeated it before, you would get a little tip as to which moves would be most effective in doing damage, which kept it fair because it wouldn't be like you encountered a Pokemon you never seen before and you automatically know the move. That wasn't the case. But they messed it up. They had your rival Hao and a bunch of other characters stopping you at every nook and cranny in the game, every route, every town, every building, everywhere. Stopping you for like either some really sappy scene that was super unnecessary to the story, or to tell you things that you could have figured out from 2 seconds of hopping into battle, you know? It was very annoying, and I have no clue who decided that was enjoyable. But anyway, that leads me into my next point, and that is the story. Now, I don't personally find the story to be all that important, but it's like a big portion of the game, and it's what you have to get through in order to get to the good stuff. And I would really appreciate it if I could stay awake that long to get to like the competitive battles and all that other stuff. Here's a brief rundown of what happens in every Pokemon game. You're the new kid in the neighborhood. You meet your neighbors, become best friends and or rivals with them. For some reason, your town always has a professor or is like one town over, and that professor will then give you a Pokemon. In like 2 games, the champion has given you your Pokemon, but you end up meeting the professor anyway somehow, and then you're given a Pokedex and you're asked to collect every Pokemon in the region, which is a really weird task to give a 10 or 11-year-old kid.
I need an adult.
But besides how the actual story starts, before we get into choosing a Pokemon and meeting people, I think character customization is a really critical part to any RPG, and it's what gives new life to a game when you start it over and over and over again, or even if you want to just keep playing forever. I think, me personally, I'd appreciate it if my character looked a little bit more like me. It's not really common that I'll find curly hair like mine, or you know, my exact skin complexion in a video game. It's just not that common. I feel like it'd be pretty dope if they were to add, you know, like an age slider, or just like choosing 3 ages, either a kid, a middle-aged adult, or an elderly person. That'd be pretty dope. I think role-playing is what makes a lot of games more immersive these days, because there's not a lot of variety in a lot of games that come out, in 2020 at least. Back to the skin tones though. What the hell is this? Can I please get a slider or something? And again, can we please get some curlier hair in these games, man? Like either between my hair or like, you know, Like, there's a lot curlier hair than mine too. I feel like a lot of Japanese games, they go from straight hair to afro really quickly. There's a lot of things in between that, and braids and afros are not the only black hairstyles. Anyways, say that they actually did get to go through with the whole age selection at the beginning. Maybe that affects how you would start the game. So if you chose a kid and you like the classic adventure, you start off as a typical Pokemon game. You know, you're the new kid in town, you meet everything that I described earlier. Maybe they should keep that if you select a kid, because most likely a kid that's never played Pokemon before would likely pick a kid, you know, and then they get to play the experience where they go through more tutorials, or they'll start with a lower level Pokemon or something. It'd be dope though if you chose to be like 20 years old and the game starts with you at work, and one of your coworkers realizes that you always take the train to avoid the tall grass because you don't own a Pokemon. You've never caught a Pokemon before. Wouldn't that be so dope if a friend from work or a colleague or even your boss went, let me teach you how to catch a Pokemon, blam, and then you choose a target in the grass or something, and then that'll be the 3 starters that you get. That'd be a more unique way, a more natural way to select your first Pokemon. Adults like to show off to their parents too. Maybe your first little adventure would be you going home without taking the bus for the first time. You take your Pokemon and you go home, say hi to your mom if she's living with you, or maybe she's your next door neighbor. Who knows? There's a lot of things you could do with that. I don't know what the story would do if you chose an elderly person, but that's the idea. Please do something with it. As for the rest of the game, I don't really have a preference for like I don't mind the story being like super lackluster or even super simple. Like in the most recent title of Sword and Shield, I really liked how simple the story was. Like, you didn't really have to face any evil team until later in the game. That was when the game got really boring to me, in my opinion. Like, I didn't feel like it was necessary to have another world-ending event happening in the middle of a tournament. I actually really liked the peaceful, like, it gave me kind of like an Animal Crossing kind of vibe where there was nothing serious going on. I was just battling and going on a short adventure and going from town to town. That was pretty dope. So long as people don't keep stopping me every second and there's plenty of things to do in between each town, then that's a great adventure. It's really relaxing, it's mellow, and then you just have some battles in between. It's enough for me. I don't really even need a story. Like, it's good. I feel like they did a really good job of making you feel important in this world, because like, you appeared on television and there'd be a crowd when you walked into a gym, and then when you finished a challenge, people knew your name in the street. It was like a lot more immersive this time around. I just feel like that it was like the simplicity really helped that game up until the point where we had to fight whatever that legendary Pokemon's name was. I forgot. It wasn't that interesting, but hopefully my point made sense. Now, since we're talking about the gyms, I think it's time to move into the next section, which is battling. And the main thing I didn't like about the gyms was the Dynamax system. I feel like it was pretty hype to watch the transformations and stuff, but I don't see why Mega Evolution had to be replaced by that. I really liked Mega Evolution. There's things about Dynamaxing that I enjoyed, such as the fact that any Pokemon can do it, which kind of brings a new level of importance to every single Pokemon in the game. Like, your favorite Pokemon can Dynamax. Now, I'm not against the idea of maybe in the story, they could create artificial Mega Stones so that any Pokemon, every final stage evolution could get a Mega Evolution. Even if it doesn't come natural to them in the wild, that'd be pretty dope. The reason why I'm down for this artificial Megastone idea is because it would really force them to rebalance the game, go back and take a look at older designs, and really think about how to make each Pokemon different from one another. Not just giving one a really high speed and attack and one really high defense and attack, or one really low speed for trick. Like, there should be a lot more ways to play Pokemon, because Pokemon is a numbers game at the end of the day, and you have to find ways to make it a little bit more interesting. Which reminds me, we're almost reaching 1,000 Pokemon soon. At this point, I'm not really sure if they should keep adding Pokemon to the game, because how will that affect the battle system? There's going to be more Pokemon, more players with new favorite Pokemon, and not every Pokemon is usable in a competitive scene. And I think that's a problem. Even if they don't decide to make every final stage evolution like, you know, a Mega Evolution, there has to be some way for every Pokemon to be usable in a battle. I feel like, you know, Z moves were great. I feel like Z moves are pushing it a little bit. I don't feel like it was necessary to the game, but again, it was one of those things where any Pokemon could use it. So even if your Pokemon didn't get a Mega Evolution before, I was really happy that, for example, my favorite Pokemon is Bulbasaur. So my natural Mega Evolution that I'd use is Mega Venusaur. But I'd have a bunch of other Pokemon on my team that could Mega Evolve, but I didn't want them to take up that slot. So for example, my Gyarados, I'd give him you know, Flyinium Z, so that he can use he gets a badass moment to do a super move in the middle of the fight. Another topic that falls under battling, but also under trading and collecting, is the end game. You know, like, what is there to do afterwards besides collect and finish collecting all the Pokemon? A lot of people are really fond of the idea of adding the Battle Frontier back into the game, and that's just one piece of the puzzle in my opinion. It'd be great to have one place where you can have a bunch of challenges and potentially get some exclusive rewards and come out of it a better trainer. But at the same time, multiplayer really does need a better focus, and collecting Pokemon shouldn't also just be locked between trading and exclusive games. There's a ton of other things that they could add to the game, and I kind of feel like they shouldn't rely too much on DLC or exclusives like I mentioned. Now, the real end game to me, besides fashion, is battling and multiplayer, right? I want people to see my outfit, I want people to see my team that I work so hard on, and I want to actually be the best. But there isn't really a great ranking system in Pokemon. They have ranked battles, but they don't really allow you to create a lot of diverse rule sets. Now, there are two common ways that you would play the game. Pokemon has an official rule set called VGC that changes pretty frequently, but for the most part it's double battles at level 50, and if they do single battles, it's still level 50 and it's only 3 Pokemon on your team. I find that to be really annoying, because why did I play through my adventure with 6 Pokemon and level them up to 100 and EV train them and do all this work just so that they could be cut down in half and my team cut in half as well? I'm not really a fan of that, and others aren't either, which is why there's a community called Smogon that has created their own rule set. They divide it into tiers such as Ubers, OU, UU, NU, and lower, which allows you to use baby Pokemon or Pokemon that aren't that great in battle usually. Like, they'll just exclude certain Pokemon, certain items, certain move combinations, and most of the time it's like a community voted process, and it's basically like self-implemented rules that you agree to play with other people that the game doesn't really implement. Now, the fact that people have to do that is pretty sad in my opinion. I really do feel like at this point, I don't know if thousands, I'm pretty sure thousands of people play with Smogon rules. They even have their own app called Pokemon Showdown, which I definitely recommend you check out. Pokemon Showdown is a place where you just log in and you create a team. No training, no time taken from your day. Like, it's great for if you have a full-time job and you don't have time to train and breed all your Pokemon. You can make them shiny, you can make them, you know, it's cool, but it'd be great if Pokemon had its own little system like that, its own little battle simulator. Maybe they could turn Pokemon Go into that or make a separate app, but it just shows there's a demand for a competitive scene, a real competitive scene within the Pokemon game, and it's not being fulfilled by Game Freak, so we do it ourselves. Anything else? Nah, I think that's everything. So hopefully the things that I've brought up in the discussion will be heard by Game Freak. If others agree, you let me know in the comment section below what you thought of my ideas. I'm a really big Pokemon fan, and I don't like to just criticize and break things down for no reason. Like, I want to have fun with Pokemon again, and I don't feel like I'm doing that right now. Sorry. I have a full-time job, and I don't really have time to play games like that. So it'd be great if Pokemon gave me something to look forward to when I came home. But anyways, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.